Hello, Leaf Nation. Welcome to the show, Tuesdays with Schwartz, live every single Tuesday. If you saw all the previews, you know what we're talking about today. We have 4 things. We are going to talk about how to reach kids. We're going to talk about the free webinar. We're going to talk about number 3, what you're going to learn in the free webinar. And number 4, how teachers need to support and stand up and protect each other. 4 things talking about today. So let's get into the first one. How to reach kids, right? Isn't that's what every teacher needs to do? That's the job. How do you reach kids? How do you teach them? How do you help them grow? How do you help them? Teachers help people. That's what they do. They don't hurt kids, they help kids. Problem is that not every kid wants your help. The challenge of being a teacher. You have a class of some districts, 15 kids, some 20, 25, 30, in some cities, up to 40 kids in your class. Not every kid wants to have your help. See, here's the misunderstanding. What everybody says is that the kid doesn't want to learn. Not true. All kids want to learn. What they don't want is they don't want your help. So here is how you overcome that. And that's what this webinar is all about. So let's first talk about my background. Who am I? What do I know? How do I know this? Why do you even care that I know it? Why does it matter to you? So first, my name is D. Scott Schwartz. I welcome you to this channel. If you are new to it, welcome. Hello, how are you? Yes, Leaf Nation is the name of the academy that I am running online. I used to run it in person. So I'm new to social media, but not new to this game. I've been doing this for 20 years. Now, I want to make this very clear. I am a former teacher, principal, superintendent, as well as the school business administrator. That's what I did for 20 years. In addition to that, in my spare time, which I didn't have a lot of, but in my spare time, I opened up an education think tank called Education Development Institute in 2013. See how I've been doing this a while. So 2013, I opened up that education think tank in order to research, write, and develop educational programs for teachers, administrators, school districts, to basically talk about the stuff that I had already learned and was implementing with tremendous success. One of the things that I did was create a seminar, a live in-person seminar. I know that sounds crazy in today's pandemic age that we were in person, but I had a live in-person seminar teaching these exact strategies on how to reach any kid. And we got to a certain point. 2 years ago was the last live one that I did. And I had overall around 5,000 people have come to all of my seminars, workshops, trainings, lectures. 5,000 people in person. Now, that's not all at once. Again, in person means there was a room, and the room could only fit a certain amount of people. So the room could fit about 50 people. We could squeeze in with seats, maybe like 70. But the last live in-person seminar that I ran, we actually had standing room only. There was over 100 people in the room. And so here are the strategies that 100 people crammed into a room to learn. And so that's what I want to talk about today on this show. So first, if you like what we're talking about so far, reaching kids, and that there's a free webinar, because now I put it online, so free webinar that you can sign up for, please press the like button, because I want to know that this is something that you like. This is something that you want. Now, it's a free webinar. You can go, you can register for it. It is this Friday, so I don't remember the date, sorry. January something, January 22, I believe. But it's Friday, 4 o'clock. Okay, so go to the website, which is on the link. Okay, it's at leafacademy.org/ webinar. Very easy to remember. Go put in your email address, sign up for it. You will get a Zoom link in your email to then attend the webinar. It's totally free. 60 minutes, totally free. Now, what are we going to learn? What are we going to discuss in that webinar? We're going to discuss the strategies. How do you reach a kid? So one, what's the kid that we're talking about? Most challenging student. So let me give you a composite of my student over the last 20 years. Okay? So I've been in education for 20 years. Most of my kids fit into this category. So ages 9 to 16, from an urban school environment or an urban district. Family was either free or reduced lunch. And the kid, mostly male, not always, mostly male, so about 80% male, 20% female. But this one thing in common, they were angry. Like, angry. Every day, without fail. So imagine you're a teacher and you have a student who is angry. They hate you, they hate the principal, and they hate the building. Like, beyond just the concept of school, they physically hate the building. Like, if they could burn it down, they would. They know they can't. They know that's against the law. They know they would get into big, serious trouble. But if it were allowed, they would burn it down. Now, how are you going to reach that kid? Now, you're also probably wondering, you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't have kids that are that bad. You probably don't. I know. That's the whole point. That's the kid I worked with. And we had rolling enrollment. So every single month, and here's the advantage you have over me, you have the same students from September to June. I did not. I would get a new student every month. And every month that kid was now angry. And I had to now figure out, okay, I have a brand new student, know nothing about them. You know your kids because it's January. So you know your kids. You've had them since September. You know them now. So you could implement all of these strategies and it will work because you already have rapport. You already know them. I and my staff and everybody that I taught, we're talking about how to reach a kid you don't know, that you have no background with, that you have to actually build rapport to get to the place that you want to get to. So you're in an advantage role as opposed to where I was. These strategies work because you can implement them way better than I could. I had to struggle. My staff struggled daily to implement these strategies because we were fighting every uphill battle. You don't. You don't have to fight every uphill battle. So these strategies will not only work, but they will fully transform your classroom. They will fully transform you as a teacher. You will relax at a level you have never relaxed before. In fact, you will feel so confident in your teaching skills and abilities that you will, the whole pandemic, the whole situation, you will literally go like this. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Actually, it's kind of nice. It's less stressful now. Did you hear what I just said? It's less stressful now. That's how powerful these strategies are. This will change your entire perspective on being a teacher, that it's less stressful now. So let's talk about it. So that's what we're going to do in the free webinar. I couldn't get into all of them right now because literally I don't have enough time. We're talking about 60 minutes where we just talk about the strategies, what works. So here's what I will do right now is actually tell you what we're going to do in the webinar so that you have a preview to, oh, should I sign up? Okay, so does this matter to you? So if you are a teacher right now, or if you've ever had a kid that you did not know how to reach, this is for you. Okay? So if you're going through the questions, is this for me? Is this for me? Is this for me? One, if you have a student that you're having difficulty with, or you've ever had a student that you had difficulty with and you didn't know what to do, like you've tried everything you could think of, then this is for you. This webinar is for you. It's free. Need to make that clear. It is free. This webinar is for you. Okay? So if you've had a kid who was challenging, or you've ever had a kid that was challenging, this is for you. Second, if you have tried every strategy that you know, and you're kind of reaching your limit of, I don't know what else to do, not saying that you even have any challenging kids, but you've kind of run out of strategies, this is for you, because these strategies will actually open up a whole lot more what you can do in your classroom. They cut to the core of teaching and learning, as well as relationship and rapport with kids. So if you are at a point in your career, so for novice teachers, this is perfect. Like if you're thinking about going into teaching, like if you're in an undergraduate or graduate program and you're not teaching right now, this is perfect for you. If you are a novice teacher, this is absolutely perfect for you because you have no idea what's going on. Not insultingly, you don't know what's going on in a good way. And if you're a veteran teacher who you've met a couple kids that you're just like, wow, they were out of the box, this is for you. Starting to get a lot of teachers, right? Like, yeah, that's why nearly 5,000 teachers, educators, principals, superintendents, child study team members came to my live in-person webinars, and well, they were seminars. Again, I have to keep reminding myself, in-person seminars. We live in a new world. That's why they came, because what my experience was so unique that they were like, well, if it's working in his program, and if this guy can make it work where he has every kid. Now, I'm just making that clear. My composite kid was every kid. So I had every single year anywhere from 100 to 200 students. Every one of them was angry. Every one of them had failed academically in public, charter, and elite private school. They came from everywhere, suburban, rural, and urban districts. Now, the composite was mostly urban kids, mostly because of the fact that the public and charter schools in the urban centers just had run out of ideas, whereas most suburban schools, they just have more resources, and so they can try more things. But eventually they failed there too. I need to make that clear. It didn't matter. K-12 schools generally, and I'm writing a report on that, you will get that as well. But if you get on the webinar, you're going to get all of this stuff. Like you'll get on the email list, you'll get on everything. Like you will get everything as it comes. So you won't miss out. But here are the exact reason why 5,000 educators, superintendents, directors of special services, child study team members, and teachers came to in-person seminars. Okay, so these are very valuable, useful tools. So I don't want to miss anything. So let me just make sure we've covered it. So one, we talked about how to reach kids, right? So that's what we're talking about. How do you do that? Two, the webinar. So we've covered that. So now let's go over exactly what's going to be in the webinar. Okay, so the secrets, right? That's what we want to know. So the first secret is, how do you reach them? So you're going to learn that. You're going to learn, okay, what's the problem? Why are they refusing to do work? Why are they refusing to do homework? Why are they not turning on their Zoom camera? Why are they not doing anything? Why are they not listening to your rules? Why are they not following your instructions? Why? We're going to answer that in the webinar. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, why are all of your strategies failing? It's not you, it's your strategies. It's got nothing to do with you. Teachers take everything personally. It's a good and a bad thing. It's a good and a bad thing. Teachers are great people. They're great. Like it needs to be said. Every teacher is great, because the fact that you want to be a teacher means that you're a great person. Like, no one wants to be a teacher unless you are a great person. No one wants to be a teacher. It is not a job that you just fall into. Like, it's not, because if you do, you quit. You're just like, whoa, so in my career, so 20 years, I had 10 years as an administrator. In 10 years, there were times where I literally hired people and they quit the same day. Because education is not a job that you just try out. In fact, that became part of my interview process. I interviewed everyone that worked for me. I interviewed all the principals. I interviewed all the teachers. I interviewed even the admin staff. I interviewed the social workers. I interviewed the custodians. I interviewed everyone that worked for me because I wanted to ask one question. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? There are other jobs that you will make more money and you will probably be more successful. Do you really want to do this? Because it's not about what you do. It's about who you are. Teaching is all about who, not what. That means that the strategies you're using, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with what you're doing. So you can change what you do. Can't change who you are. And we don't want to change that. I certainly don't want to change that. I hope you don't want to change that. Who you are is great. Now you just have to figure out, okay, so it's not me. All right, I get it. All right, it's not me. It's what I'm doing. The kid is not responding to what I'm doing. So we're going to identify why those are not working. And there are some very common mistakes that I have seen over my 20 years that teachers make. Very common mistakes. So we're going to learn those common mistakes. You're going to go, oh, yeah, I do that. I do that. So if you want to learn those mistakes, join the webinar. Again, it's in the link in the bio. All right, you with me so far? If you are, please press the like button. Let me know. Go ahead, press it. All right, let's get to secret number 3, which is, okay, what are the actual strategies? So obviously at the end, we're going to talk about the actual strategies that you're going to learn. So that means we walk through how to get to that kid. What is the roadblock? Because that's really all it is. It's a roadblock. Okay? So once you know and once you understand, okay, this is why these strategies don't work. Now what do I do? Once you get that, then everything changes in your classroom. In fact, your interactions with every student changes. It's not just the kid that's challenging anymore that becomes like a eye-opening, oh my God. You start to look at every kid way differently, and that unlocks all of their potential. Now, there are teaching strategies which we will not go over in the webinar. So if you are also interested in the teaching strategies, I need you to follow this count, because we're going to do teaching strategies after we talk about how to reach a kid. Reaching a kid is different. That's behavioral. There is a relationship issue. There is a rapport issue. There is a behavioral issue. There is a disconnect, a disassociation between the student and the teacher. What we need to do is build a bridge. Okay? Build a bridge between you and the student. Once you do that, you can teach them anything. Remember, we're going to go back to what my experience is. Unique is that every kid in my school, every kid that I worked with, every kid that I taught was angry and didn't want to be there. In fact, in many cases, they were even saying, "This school sucks." Now, we taught a whole different curriculum. Now, we followed Common Core standards and we did exactly what we were legally supposed to do, but we did not teach the same curriculum that you teach in your school. Not at all. We were teaching a 22nd century curriculum. So we were 100 years ahead of you. I know that's going to sound shocking and be like, whoa, wait a minute, what are you talking, what are you talking about? How were you in a 22nd century curriculum? And it's because of the fact that we did not focus on low order thinking skills. We did not focus on memory, recall, and understanding at all. I know that's like mind-blowing. You're like, what? Wait a minute, but that's everything I teach. Kids have to memorize in math. They have to memorize formulas. No memorization necessary in my school. No memorization necessary in my school. When we use graphic organizers, my teachers gave fully written out graphic organizers. Kids never use graphic organizers to write in. Never. They were given the graphic organizer with all the information pre-filled in. They were study guides. They were not note-taking guides. Totally new concept. Again, putting kids into the 22nd century. The other piece is obviously we're talking high order critical thinking skills. So all of my teachers had to get trained in what's called critical thinking lesson planning. Critical thinking lesson planning. And if you've heard about critical thinking, then you know the research. Dr. Robert Marzano, Richard Paul, Bob Ennis, to name a few. There's been 50 years of educational research on critical thinking skills and how important they are. Now, one of the research reports that I'm writing right now, and that's going to be coming out in the next couple weeks. So I already have, so I'll give you just a slight preview. If you do not know Jeremy Anderson, the great motivational and inspirational speaker. I'm not as good as he is. He is amazing. But he goes to schools around the country and talks about how to reach kids, how to find the passion. And I think his whole program is called Going to the Next Level. Well, how do you go to the next level? Well, you have to reach kids. Now, what I'm doing is I'm the nuts and bolts. Okay? You have to know who you are. Okay? Jeremy Anderson is an inspiration. He is a motivator. He gets you to go, I want to do that. And I come in the back and go, okay, here's how. Okay? So I'm not as good at motivating and inspiring. Not as good. I'm not bad, but I'm not as good as he is. He is an expert motivator. He is an expert inspirational speaker. He is unbelievable. I've been watching him for many years. So anyway, he and I have been talking. He is amazing. And so my hope is that we can collaborate together. And if you want that, please press like, say yes, and put a comment. Yes, I like Jeremy Anderson. Or I didn't know who he was, and you go follow him. Follow him, follow me. Absolutely. Together, we're going to transform schools. He is an inspiration. Absolutely. So if you like him, definitely press like, put it in the comments. Love Jeremy Anderson. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because we're talking about reaching kids. That's the whole point of this show, is reaching kids. So how do you then reach them for their future? How do you get them to understand that you're just trying to help, right? Teachers help. They don't hurt, they help. Not every kid sees it that way. They don't see it that way. That's all it is. It's a vision issue. It's got nothing to do with you. So I wear glasses. You need to give kids glasses for school. That's what a 22nd century curriculum does. It gives every kid glasses, education glasses, so that they can actually learn the things they need to know. Now, in the report that I'm working on, okay, it's a research-based report, so it's a lot of work. I'm drilling down into what kids need. And what they need, based on Georgetown University's Center for Education in the Workforce, okay, they did a study of all the core skills that kids need to get high-paying jobs. Okay, we're talking the six-figure jobs. In the study, it talks about premium salaries, premium, six-figure. The 5 skills are all critical thinking skills. All 5 of them. All 5. Now, if you don't know Bloom's taxonomy, that I made an awesome graphic. You know what I'll do? If you want the graphic, put a comment in and say, I want Bloom's graphic. Put it in the comment, and I will post the graphic that will be in the report. I can do that immediately. That's not a problem. But put it in the comments. Give me the Bloom's taxonomy graphic, because I'll put it in. But you can see on the top scale of the Bloom's taxonomy, the 3 things up top are the critical thinking skills. Now, we focused on those 3, which is analyzing, evaluating, and creating. In some cases, there have been some changes, so some modernization. Dr. Marzano made some modifications to Bloom's taxonomy. There's nothing wrong with those. And I'm going to say this, I don't think anybody can argue with this, but Dr. Robert Marzano is a genius. He's a legit genius. I am in awe of everything he does. So anything that he's done, it's fine. You can follow it, you cannot follow it, doesn't matter. But you can also do Bloom's taxonomy. So again, the top 3 is evaluating, analyzing, and creating. Now, why are those 3 skills so important? And here's why. Because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm writing a research report, okay? The report is going to go to our U.S. Department of Education. It is going to be going to our U.S. Department of Education. So it needs to be research-based. It needs to be factual. It needs to actually make a point. The only way I can do that is to research, which means that I need to analyze documents and figure out, evaluate which ones are good, which ones I need, and then with the analysis and the evaluation together, then create a report. Can your kids do that in your classroom? Can they do that? Now, here is the developmental shift that you need to understand. That kids 6th grade and up can do that developmentally. Even special needs. 6th grade and up can do that. Are K-12 middle schools and high schools doing that level work? No, not even close. In the report, I have an example of a 6th grade literacy Common Core standard, which only talks about understanding. By the end of the year, kids will understand how to read text. That is a 6th grade literacy standard. If we're only teaching the low order skills by the 6th grade, no wonder why kids by 12th grade, because they just never got the skills. We never taught them the skills. Elementary school is all about low order skills. That is the reason for elementary school. Elementary school is all about remembering stuff and understanding and trying to apply it. And like, it's basic stuff. Basic. Low order. And so kids need to have that every day in elementary school, especially special needs kids. And again, everybody's going to come in with objections. I know, I've heard all the objections. I've been doing this for 20 years. You're going to say, how? No, it doesn't work for this. It doesn't work for that. It doesn't work for this kid. It doesn't work for that kid. I'm telling you right now, you don't know what you're talking about. I've done it for 20 years. It works for every kid. I had one kid. So here's some stories. You ready? So I had one kid who started in the 4th grade. He could not read. He was below a kindergarten literacy level. All of our students, so just to let you know as well. So we had to do standardized testing. Had to. That was the law. Provided zero data that we could use, because it only measures memory and recall and maybe some understanding, which I didn't care about, because those are low order skills. So if standardized tests only tell me what a kid can do at the lowest level, I'm like, okay, I don't care. I want a kid to be up here. I don't want a kid to be down here. I want a kid to be up here. So like, the standardized test means nothing to me. So, but all of our kids, because we had IEPs, they actually had to take what's called a Woodcock-Johnson, which is a legally validated assessment. So if you're a parent and you really want your kid to get tested, the Woodcock-Johnson's the way to go. That's it. It's a legally validated test and assessment, and is recognized by any court in the United States. The standardized test, not recognized. Why? Because it's like the SAT. It's a test. You can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't tell you anything. So we had the Woodcock-Johnson. So on the Woodcock-Johnson, this student was reading below kindergarten. He was like, he could almost do phonemic awareness. Almost. Not much. He's in the 4th grade. Now, everybody, remember, he came to me in the 4th grade. So that means he went through the public school. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, no reading. I don't know what they did. But basically what happened is, in the 3rd grade, which is the reason he finally came to me, is in the 3rd grade, he just gave up. He was just like, all right, if you're just going to keep doing the same stupid strategies over and over again, I'm going to have fun with this. And he started to beat up other kids in the class because he wasn't learning. He couldn't read and he couldn't keep up with the class. So he's like, it's time for me to have fun. Okay. So he used to mess with everybody else in the room. Now, in 3rd grade in a public school, you can't do that. Like, you can't get into fights with other 3rd graders. You can't argue with the other 3rd graders. You can't argue with the teacher every single day. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So how then do you take a student like that and then put them in a program? Again, the same school. I have the same 4 walls. I have the same teachers, right? Because, there's best practices for teaching. There's no, I didn't have secret teachers. I had the same teachers. We had the same curriculum. Everything was the same. Again, the structure was the same. But what we were doing was way different, because the strategies that we were using didn't make any cognitive sense to the public school. Because the public school and the charter schools and the private schools are only focused on low order skills. So to them, everything we were doing made zero logical sense. Why would you do those projects? Why would you teach the kid this? Why would you focus on that? Why? Because their status quo is one way, which is a 19th century industrial age mindset. It's 200 years old. Everybody that's gone to school in the United States knows this, because everybody in the United States has learned the exact same thing for the last 200 years. If you are 40 and under, you have learned the exact same thing that your parents and grandparents learned. That should disturb you. That should legit disturb you. What? So what we were doing was we were changing what we were teaching, how we were teaching it, for a future mindset. How can we prepare kids to go into the world of work? Because most of my kids, 90% of my kids, were going to go directly from high school to career. They were not going to college. One, because college was way too expensive. It was out of their reach. Most of my kids were from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Going to college was not economically possible. It didn't make any sense. And I'm going to say sense based on what you get out of college and what you pay for it. The value was not there. Why spend over $100,000 for something that doesn't help? So it's not that they couldn't afford it and they were missing out. No. College was a waste of time. And that understanding is way more important than anything else. Now, I'm an advocate of college. I went to college. I have a master's degree. I do not have a PhD because, I made that calculation in my head. I'm not paying $85,000 for a PhD that I don't need. I don't need it. I know how to research on my own. I know how to build a report on my own. I know how to do all of these things on my own. Why do I need a PhD? It's just prestige. Now, do I want a PhD? Yes, I do. My father was a PhD, and my grandfather was a doctor. He was a dentist. So it's in my blood that I'm supposed to be a doctor, but I'm not. Because it's not necessary. I don't need it. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't need a PhD because I don't want to do counseling. I don't need it. I have 20 years of hard-earned experience that is so much more valuable. In fact, I have colleges and universities who contact me to see whether or not I can do adjunct teaching at their graduate level. I don't have a PhD, but they want me to teach their graduate students. Because again, what you know sometimes is more valuable than the paper you have. So let's get back to the story. I know I went off track. Let's get back to the story. So the student started 4th grade, can't read. It's on below a kindergarten level. So what we did, and we had a literacy program that I totally, I dove deep into literacy. And I said, we need a comprehensive way to help kids learn how to read. And then once they learn, how to accelerate the growth. Because if you have a kid who starts in the 4th grade, well, I only have 8 years. I don't have 12. See, I did not get the extra 4. So I only have 8 years to get him to basically at least a 4th grade level, because that's what everything in the United States is. It's a 4th grade level. But I want to try to get him to 8th or 9th grade. That's the goal. If I can get a kid to an 8th or 9th grade reading level, we have hit it out of the park. Way more than any public school. Like forget in elite private schools, they don't know anything. Like if they had to work with the kids that I had, they would have given up within a week. They would have been like, it's not worth it. We can't do it. It's too much. It's too much. So anyway, we had a literacy program which we used the Wilson Reading Program. And I can't say enough about it. It's not the only one out there. It's Orton Gillingham based, so I will say that anything that's Orton Gillingham based is outstanding. So you could choose any one. There are tons of them. And I saw them all, and they were all great. But this one was the easiest for my staff to implement. And that's what you have to choose and decide as a leader. What can your staff do easily? Can't just pick a great program and go, this is great. You got to think about your staff. You got to think, what can my teachers do? Because all of them are great programs. But what's the best one for your staff? So I had to really make a choice and say, okay, I wanted to pick this one over that. And I'm not going to talk about the other ones because I don't want to do comparisons. But we chose Wilson Reading, and it was amazing. So actually changed the way we did reading because we created a reading lab. And we pulled out from the classroom kids that were below grade level 2 or more grades. So this kid was 4th, reading almost on a kindergarten level. So that qualifies. So he was going to reading 5 days a week, every day. And what we did is, because I was always involved in the coordination, because this is where things get screwed up. So I went to the teacher and said, okay, and I went to the reading coach that we had, who was an amazing, amazing person. And I said, okay, when are you going to take this kid? So she gave me the schedule. I went to the teacher and said, the kid is going to leave class at these times, these periods. What do you do before and what do you do after? And the teacher literally went, okay, that's fine. Now in my school, teachers knew I was always coming. So you just needed to have stuff ready. So they did. They were fully prepared. So they just gave me the schedule. They were like, look, we're going to do reading at this time and this time and this time. Great. I said, fine. This is what you're going to do. You're going to give all the stuff in the morning to the reading coach. The reading coach is going to go over it all with him in coaching. She went, really? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And so every day, that's what happened. And so he wasn't losing out on content because he was getting it with the coach, but he was also learning how to read. Because honestly, without reading skills, without literacy skills, you can't get anywhere else. That had to be a priority. So you can try to go and do all the other stuff. Honestly, at that point, which is why elementary school, K through 4, needs to focus, well, K through 3, needs to focus primarily on literacy and math. That's it. Literacy and math. You don't really need anything else because you need those foundational skills to open up to everything else. But once you get past that, like, you can't do reading aloud in class. It's a waste of time. Like, if a kid is that low, you need one-on-one coaching, you need small group. You can't do classroom work. You can't. It's not effective. So let's get back to the student. I know I'm going all over the place. Okay. See, this is why I need a live webinar. See, this live webinar will keep me focused. So that's why I need you to sign up for the live webinar. I will be way more focused in the live webinar. All right. So here we go. Student, 4th grade, reading on a kindergarten level. What I didn't understand, because you have to know your kid. So he was brand new. He did not want to do anything in class. Nothing. He liked to run around. He liked to disrupt things. He liked to crack jokes. He liked to interrupt the class because he couldn't keep up. So he wanted to slow everything down. So I worked with him. The staff worked with him. The social worker worked with him. We kept getting him to understand you have to just sit. Just sit. No one is judging you. Just sit. Now, what I didn't know until a couple weeks later is I talked to the teacher and I said, how's he doing? And she said, well, he's, in class, he's whatever. He does his stuff, but he does his homework. And I went, how does he do his homework? He can't read. She's like, well, I email it to his grandma because he was living with his grandma. And I assume she does it with him. I'm like, that doesn't sound like the kid that I know for 2 weeks. Like, he's not sitting and doing stuff with his grandma. Like, it's not happening. So I sat with the kid and I asked, like, tell me, what do you do when you get home? And he's like, well, I have to do this. I have these chores and then I do my homework. I'm like, well, how do you do your homework? I'm like, does grandma help you? He's like, no. What I do is I get the email. So grandma shows, I have her password for her email. So I cut and paste the assignment from the teacher and I put it into Google Translate and then I press the microphone button and it reads it to me. He goes, then I read it back to Google Translate and then I cut and paste it and I put it back in the email and I send it to the teacher. I'm sorry. This is just like, you can't. This is a 4th grader who everyone said was a failure. A failure. Here is a kid who figured out how to do homework without being able to read one word. It's crazy. It's crazy. So what I said to him, I said, that's amazing. You're a genius. You're a legit genius. He had never heard those words before. He had never heard that before. That he could figure something out, even though he could not read. So I went back to the teacher and I said, hey, this kid is working twice as hard as everyone else in your class. You need to understand that. And so when she did her grading, I made sure that she was very fair, because you couldn't assess him the way you could assess other kids, because he couldn't read the test. And even reading it to him and giving back the answers was going to be a problem, because he needed more time because he couldn't read. So just getting the information auditorily, only some of it was going in. So even doing a test orally was not going to be a proper assessment. So I said, you need to test him a lot more. You need to do smaller tests and just do it every day. And that's all going to be his quizzes. So it's every day you're going to have a quiz for him. And he ended up, at the end of that year, it was the first year he ever had a C on his report card. A C, because he had failed every class he'd ever taken from K to fourth grade, first marking period. So the second marking period was the first time he ever got a C. Now, let's jump ahead. What happened to that kid later on? So we also introduced a reading program, which some of you may be aware of, called Achieve 3000. Again, amazing program. Don't want to talk about the alternatives because they're also amazing too, but we really liked it. I liked it because it tied reading to a Lexile score. Lexiles are good, not standardized testing. Standardized testing has no Lexile. I have no idea what a score means, but the Achieve 3000 was tied to a Lexile, so I could have an assessment from the reading coach and I could say, okay, so what's the kid doing on Achieve 3000? Here's the score. Okay, and I said, translate that into a Lexile. What does that mean? And we used to give reports to every teacher from the reading lab on how the kids were doing monthly in reading. And this kid graduated on a 9th grade reading level. Started in the 4th at 0. Ended the 12th at 9th grade. If you're going to tell me that my strategies, that what I've been doing for 20 years don't work, you just don't know. And that's part of the challenge of being online and talking to brand new people, is letting you know the history and the background of all of the stuff that's been going on in my world for the last 20 years. Because you're brand new to me. Just like those kids that would come into my building and I had to build a bridge real quick and say, hey, you got to do work. I got to build a bridge real quick with you because you're new to me. And you have to see, like, wait a minute, does this guy make any sense? And so my hope is that you see that the strategies and the techniques work. That's why I'm doing the free webinar, because I need these concepts out there. My hope is that if you like this right now, I want you to share this IGTV in your stories and tag me. Share it in your stories. The more people that share this in their stories, the more people that will go to the webinar and get these strategies. It's free. That means that we need to get these strategies into the classroom. We need to help more kids, especially now. Like there's no time to wait. We have to help more kids. So this is a free webinar. So go to the website. It's in the link on the bio, but the web address is leafacademy.org/webinar. Sign up. Now for the first 1,000 people that sign up, there's going to be a special offer, which means on the next thing that I do, the teaching strategies, not reaching kids, but the teaching strategies, you're going to get a huge discount. Huge. I'll put it this way. Whatever it's worth, you're going to pay 10% of it. So you'll get a 90% discount for the first 1,000 people. So I taught 5,000 people in person. I think I can get to 1,000 people online. So I need you to put this in your stories and tag me so that I can see it. And again, I will thank you for it. But sign up. Okay. Last is this piece, the fourth thing, which is why teachers need to support and protect each other. We need to stand up for each other. And the reason is because the whole system is against us. If you feel stressed out, there's a reason for it. If you feel like nobody cares, there's a reason for it. If you feel like you're in quicksand, there's a reason for it. None of it has to do with you. And I'm going to say that none of it has to do with your colleagues either. And I know it doesn't feel that way, but it's the truth. Teachers are great people. Bottom line. Teachers are great people. I know that, one, because I'm in education and I'm a great person. But my mom was a teacher, 30-year retired teacher. She was one of those teachers that every kid remembered. I wasn't that good a teacher. I was that good an administrator. I know kids remember me because kids came back. And they came back a lot. And they'd be like, Schwartz, look what I'm doing. Schwartz, look what I'm doing. Most of them would come back and say, Schwartz, I know I was a real pain in the ass, but you stuck with me. My mom, when she retired, wasn't just a little ceremony. It was a Mr. Holland's Opus event. It was in the gymnasium, and kids from generations came back. They had board members there. I was shocked. My mom was shocked. She was like, I'm just retiring. Like it wasn't she had enough. It was no one she'd worked with. All of her colleagues had retired or unfortunately, because they were older, had passed away. So she was the oldest teacher in the building now by about 5 years. And at that point, she was like, there's nothing more I can accomplish, and I can let it go. Because as a teacher, you know you can't let it go. She was a pack rat. She had 30 years of stuff in her basement. And she tried to give it away to novice teachers, and they're like, I don't want this stuff from 1970. Like, what the hell am I gonna do with it? And actually, she started teaching in the 60s. So they're like, what do I want stuff from the 60s for? Crazy. Who's this crazy old lady? But again, she made an impact. She didn't feel that she made an impact. That's what she was doing every single day. And that's what you do every single day. You just do your job. You hope that it's making an impact. And I'm telling you, it is. The problem is that you just don't get the metrics. You don't get to know if what you're doing is actually getting through for the longer term. And the problem is that the system is designed to ruin your career. And that's because, again, we're going back to the system is designed to teach low order thinking skills. If you were teaching high critical thinking skills, like high order critical thinking skills, you would see the impact much more dramatically. It's eye-opening when you change your classroom from low order to high order. You see it. The kids make huge leaps because high order critical thinking skills, when you teach that, when you write critical thinking lesson plans, kids have to actually grab on to the low order stuff. Like they have to access understanding, memory, in order to do high order. Like, it's a scaffold. So when you teach low order in elementary school, by the time you get to middle school, you only focus on the high order because kids will catch up. Even the special ed kids will catch up. Like I said, that kid in 4th grade had already figured out, I can't read, so I will cut and paste, put it in Google Translate, and let it speak to me. That's critical thinking skills. He's a special needs kid who can't read. Is it making sense? That's the power of critical thinking skills, higher order lessons. So the next thing that we're going to do is teach critical thinking lessons. And I'm working with a software company. I can't announce it yet. We have a full lesson planning software. It's free. So when you get that, you'll get to use this huge, great digital lesson plan. And we're going to put it all together. And then we're going on to the curriculum, which we have to simplify. Oh my God. I just tried to do an analysis of the Literacy Common Core standards. I'm up to 772 standards. Do you know that the limit on memory is 7 things? And depending on who you are, plus or minus 2. That's it. It's all you can remember. Which is why our phone numbers are 7 digits. Because you can't remember anything more. We're limited. Our brain can only remember a small amount of stuff. Like, you can't access stuff. Yet, that's what we're doing with standardized testing. We're testing how much kids can remember. Yet, none of that is important in business. CEOs don't remember anything. They're not paid to remember. They're paid to lead. Leading is a critical thinking skill. You can't lead by memory. You have to lead by vision. And the only way to get a vision is to analyze, evaluate, and create a vision. If you want kids to be career ready, you have to teach analyzing, evaluating, and creating. What we don't need in school is we don't need some of the sciences. Sorry. We don't need them. What we do need in school is we need art. We need music. We do need that. Why? Because that's creating. Kids need to create in school. K to 12. We're not talking about college. We're talking about K to 12. Kids need a basic understanding of science. Kids need to know in science, they need to know enough to know whether or not they want to study it in college. And then college takes you to the next level. And college level science is unbelievable. Holy cow. Like, legit unbelievable. But most kids, they don't need it. Don't need it. They need a basic understanding of biology. They need to understand nutrition, which we don't teach. So here you go. We teach a whole bunch of stuff, but we don't teach what we should be teaching. There's a lot of stuff that we do not teach in school that we should, and we teach stuff that kids don't need. We should not. So here's the last piece, and then I'm going to leave you with this. And I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please follow me. If you liked it, please share this in your stories. If you liked it, give me a yes. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate everybody that's been watching. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to leave you with this. We don't need to be teaching all of this stuff. We just don't. We don't need to be focused. K to 12 should not be focused on college and career readiness. It's a waste of time. We need to simplify the whole system. We need to simplify the vision for schools. We need to simplify the curriculum. We need to simplify the teaching. We need to simplify the job of a teacher. Everything we need to simplify. And with the simplification, not dumbing down, with the vision, the clarity of vision, our schools will take off. And we're going to jumpstart kids 100 years in advance. You want to talk about future-proof education, a rock-solid education behind kids to master the 21st and 22nd centuries. Forget about the 19th and 20th. We're talking 21 and 22. So 100 years into the future. If you want to do that, we need to simplify. And the only way to do that is that schools need to do two things. One is inspire and help kids dream about their career future. And number two is we need to teach them the skills that they will need to pursue their career dream. That is it. Which is why I'm excited to work with potentially Jeremy Anderson, because he solves number one. Inspire and have kids create a dream future. What do kids want to become? See, the beauty of education and the reason why teachers get excited about being a teacher is because you are looking through the future. Education is a window into the future, not a mirror into the past. And so because of that, we are helping kids build a future that doesn't exist. That's crazy. We're creating new realities. Everything that's in life doesn't matter to kids because when they grow up, life is different. So we're helping them create a whole new reality. Imagine the possibilities there. Nothing that we have, they have to keep. Nothing. So if we inspire them to create a dream for their future career, then you don't focus on college at all. At all. If they want to be a scientist, then they need to be prepared to go to college because they want to be a scientist. But the goal is not college. The goal is science. You need college to get to the goal so it becomes normal. I was going to go into something management. Didn't know what. So I needed to go to college to do that. But I had no idea. I just knew I was going to be in management. So in order to do that, I had to go to college. So I had to prepare myself from the beginning to go to college. But kids that are going to open up a business do not need college. Kids that are going to get a job in an office do not need college. Kids that go to Wall Street don't need college. Kids that basically do half the jobs in our country don't need college. Don't need college to drive a bus. You don't need college to be a dispatcher. You don't need college to do, again, 50% of the jobs in our country. You don't need a college degree. Now, people are demanding college degrees because K-12 has failed them so badly. They don't have any skills when they get out of school. So you need college to do makeup work. If we jump-started the curriculum to 100 years forward, you don't need college anymore. And that's the difference. We have a college debt problem because our K-12 system has failed all of our kids. College has become a necessity, which is the problem. College should never be a necessity. College should always be a choice. There is nothing wrong with the college and university system. I have some advice for them, but they probably won't take it. But there is nothing wrong with the U.S. college and university system. It is the best in the world. It is world class. If you go to college, you are getting a quality education. The problem is that the first year of college now is just high school extension. It's unfortunate. You are now paying $20,000 to $30,000 just for a high school extension. That's not what the college and universities want to do. They do not want to do remediation the first year. They want to go to the next level. So we need to up K-12 to meet the demands of what colleges and universities in the United States want to do. They want to be research oriented. They want to be high level thinking. They want the best and the brightest. Well, we have to start preparing more kids to be able to get to that level. But we shouldn't be forcing every kid to do it. That's the reason why community college programs and junior college programs are way better for the vast majority of kids. Because that's where you can actually just get a course specifically in something. So if you want to be a paralegal, go to community college. If you want to be, in healthcare data management, go to community college. There are also certificate programs in all of those things. Absolutely. If you want to be an IT specialist, you don't need to go to college. There are certificate programs. In fact, Microsoft and Google and all of these places certify people in their programs. Those are important, and they're not college courses. But they're really valuable. They are really valuable. And that's the difference. We need to just start simplifying and start looking at life in a much different way. And if we do that, we're going to prepare kids for the 22nd century, the next 100 years. Okay. I think this was one of my better shows. So anyway, if you like this, please follow. Please share this in your stories. Tag me. Share this in your stories and tag me. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your week. This is D. Scott Schwartz signing off.